Homeostasis and cell injury. Here we see some happy, healthy, unstressed cells in a state of homeostasis with their external environment. In order to function properly, cells must be in balance or equilibrium with their external environment. They must maintain a state of homeostasis. Conditions in the external environment, however, are always changing. Up to a certain point, cells can adapt to these continual outside changes and maintain the stable internal environment they need to stay alive. In this figure, the blue graph, which looks like a sine curve, shows a normal cell in steady state, or homeostasis, adapting easily to minor fluctuations in its environment. Then, the cell experiences some external stresses that challenge this equilibrium. You see this in red. Here the cell is being pushed to its limits. Yet, still, if the adverse external stimuli are removed, the cell can revert to normal. On the other hand, if the stresses become too great, a cell can be pushed beyond its ability to adapt. This diagram, therefore, shows that cell injury can be reversible or irreversible. Cells can be stressed and then recover, or they can be pushed beyond the limits of homeostasis to the point of no return, which ends in cell death through necrosis. All cell parts and organelles work together to maintain homeostasis, but because the cell membrane provides the boundary between the cell and its external environment, it plays a critical role. The cell membrane regulates what goes into and what leaves the cell. Two essential minerals that the cell needs to regulate carefully are sodium, Na, and potassium, K. A normally functioning cell membrane uses a pump to actively push sodium out and pull potassium into the cell. This figure focuses in upon this sodium-potassium pump embedded in the cell membrane. The red arrows show sodium being pushed out and potassium being pulled in. But the cell needs energy to operate this pump. It gets energy from the mitochondria. This is where cellular respiration takes place. Oxygen is needed to use this energy in glucose to change ADP into ATP. When this ATP is changed back into ADP, the energy is released to power the pump. When a cell doesn't get enough oxygen, called hypoxia, or if it is deprived of oxygen completely, anoxia, this pump will fail. As a result, sodium ions will move back into the cell, follow water, causing the cell and its organelles, especially the mitochondria and rough endoplasmic reticulum, to swell. In this figure, we see the effects of reversible cell injury. The mitochondria swell. The lack of oxygen leads to an increase in anaerobic glycolysis and a decrease in ATP and, therefore, a decrease in energy production. This cellular swelling or hydropic change also affects the rough endoplasmic reticulum, causing a decrease in protein synthesis. The pH of the cell decreases. The cytosol, or cytoplasm, becomes more acidic, which further depresses enzyme activity and cell metabolism. And the cell's lysosomes become overburdened with cleaning up all the mess. Enzymes leak into the acidified cytoplasm and begin to digest the cell's own components. In other words, autophagocytosis increases. The cell can still recover, but if it is pushed beyond the point of no return to where homeostasis can no longer be restored, reversible cell injury will become irreversible. One of the most obvious signs is the rupture of the cell membrane. If the cell continues to swell, it will burst, spilling its contents into the surrounding tissues. Another obvious sign of irreversible injury is in the nucleus. the nucleus shrinks and either dissolves or breaks into fragments. As seen in this figure, damage to the nucleus typically presents in three forms: pycnosis, condensations of the chromatin; karyorrhexis, fragmentation to smaller bits; and karyolysis, complete dissolution of the chromatin and loss of nuclear structure. Once the cell membrane and nucleus are no longer functional, the cell, of course, is doomed. These irreversible structural changes to the cell membrane and nucleus are termed necrosis. They can take several hours to develop, but they are distinctive. Necrotic cells are easily recognized upon histologic examination. In summary, here is a diagram of a normal cell in a state of homeostasis. The cell experiences some external stresses that cause injury, that challenge its steady state, its ability to maintain a stable internal environment. In particular, changes in cell membrane permeability due to insufficient oxygen allow the influx of sodium and water into the cell. The entire cell, along with key organelles, begins to swell. These types of changes are still reversible. Although there are other causes of cell injury, hypoxia and anoxia are perhaps the most important. If and when oxygenation resumes and the sodium-potassium pump starts working again, cellular swelling can be reversed. The cell can recover and repair itself. Here we see the lysosomes on cleanup duty, digesting damaged cell parts. Homeostasis can be restored. But if swelling continues, reversible injury will progress to irreversible, and the cell will die and undergo necrosis. Here we see the cell dying through necrosis. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.